Hi everyone, today we are starting 4.7, which is use congruent triangles. So what you must have to be able to prove triangles are congruent: side, 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 angle, side, hypotenuse, leg, angle, side, angle, and angle, angle, side. I would definitely write these down in your notes. What won't prove that triangles are congruent is side, side, angle, and angle, angle, angle. These, once again, do not work. So we have a bunch of examples here, and they are congruent triangles. We need to decide which postulate and which theorem proves that these two triangles are congruent. So let's look at the first one. Which postulate do you think is going to work here? Well, the answer is side, side, side. How do I know that? Well, this side is congruent to this side because they both have one tick mark. This side is congruent to this side because there's two tick marks. And we both see that both of these triangles share the same side, BC, which means BC is congruent to BC, the reflexive property. And if you look at your diagram, we now have proven that all three sides are congruent. So that is side, side, side. The next problem, I see that this segment is congruent to this segment. This segment is congruent to this segment. What else do I know to prove that these two triangles are congruent? Well, I also have a pair of vertical angles here. So which postulate proves that these two triangles are congruent? It would be side, angle, side. Next, I see that I have a right triangle here, which means I also have a 90-degree angle here, another right triangle. I also see that this segment is congruent to this segment. So why are these two triangles congruent? Well, before I can prove that, there's something else that I see here. They both share KM. So I need to mark that. So now, which postulate or theorem will work here? And the answer is the hypotenuse leg theorem. Hypotenuse leg theorem only works for right triangles. Next, I see I have a pair of parallel lines. I also have angles here that are congruent. Now let's go back to the parallel lines. If I have parallel lines, that means I have alternate interior angles that are congruent. So that means that this angle is congruent to this angle, and this angle is congruent to this angle. Now I didn't need all that information, I can just use a few. But I also see that this line is shared between both triangles, and so I can make that marking. So which statement works here? There's actually two with how many markings I have. We could say angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side. Number 7, I have two triangles here. I am going to state what I know. Well, I know this side is congruent to this side. I know that this angle is congruent to this angle. And I know that these two angles are also congruent. So I have enough information here. Which postulate tells us that these two triangles are congruent? It would be angle, angle, side. And then finally, I see that this side is congruent to this side. This angle is congruent to this angle. This angle is congruent to this angle, which means I now have enough information. So which postulate would work here? And it's angle, angle, side. All right, and finally I'm going to start a proof. I'm not going to write a formal proof out, but explain how you can use the given information to prove that this hang glider parts are congruent. So if you look carefully, I have two triangles, triangle QRT and triangle SRT. I want to prove that those two triangles are congruent. If I prove that those two triangles are congruent, I can then say that their parts are congruent. So let's start off by, in the diagram, showing what is given. We are given the angle 1, which is this angle here. It's congruent to angle 2, which is right here. We are also told that angle RTQ, which is this angle here, is congruent to RTS, which is this angle right here. Right now, we don't have enough information, but looking at the diagram, what else can we say, or what can we show? Well, they have a shared side, RT. So I'm going to write that down. They both share RT, so RT is congruent to RT. So I now have enough information to say that these two triangles are congruent. So 2, I can say that triangle QRT is congruent to triangle SRT by which postulate works here? Angle, angle, side. So now that these two triangles are congruent, I therefore know that QT, which is this side here, is congruent to ST, which is this side here. So I'm going to write that down, that QT is congruent to ST. Why? Well, those two triangles are congruent, and corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And I'm done.